Hey, this is Mike from the One Stop Co-op Shop, and welcome to another episode of Shelf Life, where we check in on games I've covered on the YouTube channel and the podcast and see if they're still in my collection. For this month's episode, we're looking at games I covered last year in July and August. And two new things I'm trying out for the series. First, I'm changing slightly the way I'm classifying the games. In the past, when I really disliked a game and didn't intend to play it anymore but hadn't sold it or traded it, I still counted it as being part of my collection. But I'm not doing that anymore. If I am fully intending to get rid of a game and never play it again, I'm going to count it as out, even if it's still technically in my house. And on the other side of the coin, some games that I adore, I ended up letting Peter keep at his house instead of me keeping it on my shelves, but I'm going to count those as still part of my collection because I didn't get rid of them. I can borrow them whenever I want and fully intend to. And the reason I'm clarifying this is because another thing we're trying out this episode is I sent a poll out to the Slack and the Patreon members, and I asked them to vote out of the 10 games we're going to look at today, which ones I want to keep in my collection and which ones I want to get rid of. We had a bunch of responses, and I thought it was really fun to see what people think, so I'm definitely going to try this again next month, but for this month we only had 2 people get it right, so let's get to the list and see how they did. The first game we're coming back to is Set a Watch, where a band of adventurers try to fight off a line of monsters with ability cards and dice combat. 33% of you thought I would keep this in my collection. Were you right? Unfortunately, no. I enjoyed Set a Watch a lot at first, and so did the people I played it with, but I found the variety really suffered as you played more, and the main complaint that finally caused me to get rid of it was that I think they need a rule or a variant to have you use your ability cards in more varied ways, because there are very clearly better cards and worse cards for each class, and I found I would just go to the exact same strong ability cards every game, so it became a bit of a miss for me, and I had to get rid of it. Next is Escape the Dark Castle, a retro fantasy game of survival where you fight off monsters and face deadly traps trying to get out of the dungeon you've been entombed in. Only 13% of you thought I kept this game, are you right? Yeah, the big majority definitely won here. The thing about Escape the Dark Castle is there's not a lot of gameplay and tough decisions here. It's pretty much just roll a die and see if you survive. But honestly, that didn't bother me. The great production values and just the fun and goofiness of the adventure really enthralled me often. The reason it left my collection is I got such a generous trade offer, like really above and beyond, that I couldn't resist it. But I do kind of regret losing this one, and I might get a copy again because my 7-year-old son is really bummed out that he can't play it anymore, so whoops. Number 3 is Dungeon Degenerates, a fantasy campaign game where you play criminals trying to make your way in a changing world. 38% of you thought I could get past the interesting art and keep this one, were you right? Sorry, but that's 3 games gone in a row. Honestly, the art wasn't the problem with Dungeon Degenerates. I got past that pretty quickly, but the overall gameplay was just a little bit too simplistic. Now, I still enjoyed it, and I played through a couple full campaigns, but once I had seen a lot of the branching storylines, I didn't love it enough to pick up expansions, and I already seen a lot of the content that was there, so I had to move on. At number 4, we have Heroes of Tenifer, our 4th fantasy adventure game in a row. This one, a deck builder with a push-your-luck element. 56% of voters thought I kept this, the first game that had a majority. Did they get it right? Hey, look at that, we kept one! Heroes of Tenifer is a bit of an odd one here, because while I really liked the quick gameplay, the deck building, and the push-your-luck aspect, I found the variety slightly lacking. I felt like I'd seen most of what the game had to offer pretty quickly. But the designer sent me a demo copy of The Second Curse, which is coming to Kickstarter really soon, and I did some videos for, and this expansion basically doubles the content of everything in the game. Double the heroes, double the bosses, double the cards you can deck build into. And that fixed basically my only full con for the game, so for now I think it's going to stay in my collection. I'm really enjoying it with the extra content. We finally break out of the fantasy slump with our first sci-fi game on the list, Star Wars Outer Rim, where you play a smuggler trying to make your way in the galaxy. 56% of you thought I kept this one, same as with Heroes of Tenifer. Did you get it right again? Sadly, I guess the Force wasn't with us. I liked Outer Rim fine, especially the really nice streamlined gameplay, and I was impressed by the fact that Fantasy Flight finally did a pretty good Automa, pretty good bot for the solo play. but playing against the bot didn't end up feeling as exciting as I had hoped, and I also didn't feel like the Star Wars theme and kind of the stories I want out of that came through too clearly. Honestly, I think the whole adventuring with the spaceship and crew thing was done better in the Firefly board game, although that's a beast to play when compared to Star Wars Outer Rim. Quick disclaimer though, on BGG someone put up an alternate bot system that makes each bot have unique AI and kind of unique goals based on their character. If I had played that, I might have liked the game better, but I never got a chance. With number 6, we get to the game that the largest number of you thought I would get rid of. 90% of voters said that Human Interface, the cyberpunk campaign adventure skirmish game, would be gone. And yeah, let's not hold you in suspense, it's absolutely true. If you didn't watch my review, Human Interface was probably my biggest miss of last year. And that's not because the design was really bad, although I didn't like all parts of it, but because the solo play and the cooperative campaign play was pretty much unplayable. In the scenarios I played, they had constant errors, constant missing rules. You literally could not progress without making things up or just kind of fudging things, and for me at least, that's a big deal breaker, so this one I got rid of as soon as I could. Changing things up drastically, number 7 is Sprawlopolis, the micro game of changing goals and city building. In a nice contrast to Human Interface, Sprawlopolis is the game the biggest number of you thought I would keep, 73% of voters. And hey, you're right, I mean it's the print and play and it's in a little plastic baggie, but here it is. I love the changing objective cards in Sprawlopolis and how it makes every game have very different calculus in terms of what you want to do, and I also like how simple the gameplay is and yet how open the possibilities are for your strategy. But all that aside, I mean, look at it. It takes up 0 shelf space. I can just put it anywhere, so it's probably going to stay around forever. I'll just forget it's there. Who cares? Number 8 is Maximum Apocalypse, a modular deck game of post-apocalyptic survival. Like with Set a Watch from the same publisher, 1/3 of you thought I would keep this one, and like Set a Watch, I did not. The main thing that stood out to me about Set a Watch and Maximum Apocalypse is that this designer doesn't mind having major variance in the game state. Like Maximum Apocalypse, in some scenarios you can get your goal location in like your first or second draw, and sometimes it's the furthest thing away from you. For some gamers that won't bother them at all, they're just along for the ride, but I like a more controlled experience and less complete randomness in my game state. So that was enough to bother me that I didn't keep this one very long. Number 9 is Roll for Adventure, a fantasy dice placement game where you try to capture gems before the land falls to darkness. 29% of voters thought I would keep this, maybe to play with my son. Did they get it right? Once again, no. The big thing with Roll for Adventure is that I do find it fairly casual. It's not the kind of game I'd want to play at regular gamer nights. And while I think it is a fabulous game for that purpose, my son didn't like it, didn't request it at all. Like when I tried to push it on him again, he didn't want to play, and that very rarely happens. So this is an entirely personal thing. Your family might adore this game, but for me, once my main gaming partner for this type of game wasn't interested, it was gone. And our last game for this month, number 10, is Choose Your Own Adventure: The War with the Evil Power Master, the second game in the Choose Your Own Adventure series. Only 13% of you thought I would keep this one this long. How'd you do? Yep, I finished it. I'll give War with the Evil Power Master credit in that it is far less linear than the first game in the Choose Your Own Adventure series and actually has a good amount of replay. But that being said, once I played through the entire thing 5 or 6 times, while I could still see some new events each time I played, I had mostly seen all the stuff I needed to. So like with the Unlock series and the Adventure series from Cosmos, I passed this one on to a new gamer so they could have their own fresh experience. So there you go, another fairly heavy month of culling. Only 2 games out of 10 survived. And to go with those 2 games, 2 of the voters got it exactly right and called the exact games I would keep and get rid of. So congratulations and a big shout out to William Payne, one of our Patreon supporters, and Nick Skeen, one of our most active Slack members and one of our most active playtesters as well. I had a lot of fun doing the voting for this month's episode, so I think I want to do it again next month and maybe even throw in a giveaway for one of the people who gets it dead on and guesses the exact games I keep. So keep your eyes open for that. If we do a giveaway, I'll also post a video on YouTube to announce the contest, so check it out. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.